to represent the artist, but in this case, the vice president wanted to represent me, and he did. So um, it was just kind of crazy. I'm like, yo, this is about to happen. I got a major deal now. Like, it's just all it takes is one song. So we're going and we're looking for that one song. I'm recording. I'm connecting with other producers that they putting me in contact with. I'm going out partying. I'm smoking. And this is very normal for me. Going out and smoking, that's very normal. It's part of my lifestyle.
Okay, so now you were being thrown in this sinful environment, which was foreign to you, but there still wasn't anything that we hear of when people talk about selling their souls and whatever. But now at this point in the story, you're at the very top of the quote unquote food chain in terms of music. And it wasn't long after that that you actually did get some sort of an offer to sell your soul. Can you explain what happened?
I remember one particular session with the producer who, is credible. Like I said, he was kind of like on the back burner. I don't know if he offended someone where they kind of blackballed him, so he wanted to regain his name in the industry, so he took on my project. And we took a break from a session one time, and we're walking around the studio, and he said to me, "Do you know that if you sold your soul to the devil, you can have instant fame tomorrow?" And when he said that, it was like all the rumors about conspiracy theories and, oh, people worship the devil, like all of that, which I thought was fake, became very real because now it's coming from the horse's mouth. It became so real that I'm like, oh no. And it was as if a presence entered the room because my entire body went limp. I fell to the ground and I started like crying, like, God, forgive me, Lord. Oh, have mercy on me. Forgive me, and crying. Oh, just forgive me, Lord. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. On the ground in front of this guy. And I don't know how long I was doing that for. I was broken from that weight in that moment. So I'm praying and I'm crying out, asking God to forgive me. And then I stop because I'm embarrassed now. And I look up and he's sitting on he sat on a chair. It was like couches and chairs. He sat down and he had his head bowed and his arms on his knees, and he was just quiet. We never spoke of that night ever again. And so after that night, in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is serious. Okay, so I'm not going to curse. I'm not going to sing about specific stuff. I'm not going to show too much this and too much that. And, when we do this music video, I want to make sure I don't wear that. You know what I mean? Like now I'm taking more control over what I'm willing to wear, what I'm willing to sing and talk about. Because it's very much a controlled environment, how to look, how to talk, food to eat, who to be friends with. It's very controlled. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I don't want to worship Satan, so I'll just make sure that I kind of craft my own righteousness, my own, keep my own moral, bubble. But that's still compromising because I'm not walking with God still, because I'm in my mind, I'm thinking God's way is boring and he can't give me what I want. And I want this. I want to be a star. I want to sing. I want to dance. I want to travel. I didn't care so much about fame as much as I did just to sing and dance. Like I felt like I was made to sing and dance, right? But the only way that it looked good was how the world fashioned it to be through like MTV and VH1 and the things that I listed before. So yeah, that created a little bit of a shift in my heart. Again, not to walk with God, but let me try to honor him in some way, but yet not trust him completely.
Yeah. That producer that you mentioned had been previously very connected in the industry. He wasn't saying that as a joke, was he?
No, not at all. He was so serious. And I remember like different people would, like friends I had would send me like YouTube clips of so-and-so's a Satanist or this song and these hand symbols. It's all about the Illuminati, this and that. I'm like, oh, that's all conspiracy. That's all fake. And not everybody in LA is a demon worshiper, like all that stuff, right? But it all of a sudden the information that was given to me about the Illuminati and how all of these symbols and hand gestures and outfits are all like staged, and it's very heavily promoted through people with influence, especially the music industry. And it was just like that became matter of fact. And when he said it, it was almost like he was saying it to see if I would do it. Because I'm young, I'm naive, and he's older. So he's like, maybe if she does it, she gets famous, then this project will take off and my career will be back where it was before. But he didn't know I had praying parents.
So he was meaning that in a very serious way. I imagine you're definitely not the only one that he offered that to. Have you ever heard of anyone that you know potentially having something like that, or was that more hidden?
No, not personally. It's just the rumors that I've heard through like major artists, but I was just, again, brushing it off as conspiracy. So yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting that even though you didn't believe in it, now you were faced with it and faced with the reality that this is a thing, and it's becoming more and more accepted, which I think is a good thing in society because people are starting to see it more because it's just more out in the open. People don't hide it as much as they used to. But you took that seriously. You maybe not seriously enough for what you were mentioning before, but nonetheless, you took that seriously and you tried to tone things down. But you still stayed in the industry, and your career continued to progress more and more. Now you were signed with a major label, and like you said, it's all about connections. It's about one song. Uh, you were essentially aiming to become a superstar. You were connected with these things, right? So that was your goal.
The quickest way from a billion.
It wasn't my goal. It was what they were all saying. Like, yo, they were like, not every artist can sell out arenas. You can sell out an arena. And that's what the focus was because the industry was changing. No one's buying albums like that anymore. So now it's about 360 deals, brands, becoming an actual brand. And so that was the next approach at that time is not just signing someone who can sing, but who can be a brand. It's like, it's all about money. So that was when they saw that I could be a brand. I'm Latina, so that's a huge other market. It's like it was all about money for them.
And we see that now. I don't know necessarily the names of these artists. I know a few of them, especially women. Young women that get pushed in the industry, and we can easily picture. At least I can easily picture how they would have pushed you in that spotlight, just like they do with many other people. And now you had the offer to sell your soul, and we didn't really talk about that a whole lot. But it's if that's a thing, it's because it's real, and because Satan is real. And you had the first maybe inclination or the first hint that this was an opportunity, but it wasn't like a literal contract in front of you that you could sign. It was just a producer telling you, hey, if you want to do this, you'd be famous. But one day you got the offer from the man himself, and that is a story that I would imagine shook your life. And I want you to explain that in as much detail as you can, because I want to get the full story of what happened that night.
So I'm in New York at this time. I have my deal with Universal Republic. Things are looking good, and I'm just like any other night. I'm coming back from the club, and I'm staying at my manager's house or apartment. It was a studio apartment in Times Square, so it was very small. And I go to sleep, and it almost felt like immediately as I fall asleep, I'm in space. I don't know how long I'm there. Like there was no time. Like it's very weird saying that. I didn't know how long I was there. It felt like I was there for a long time. But I remember being like, whoa, this is incredible because it was more real than me talking to you. And I'm thinking, wow, God, you're letting me have this experience because I've had dreams before. Like I know the difference between a regular pizza dream and something else. Because I'm saying it's more real than me talking to you and sharing the story and me breathing the oxygen that I'm breathing. I'm there and I'm looking around and I can feel the vibration of outer space. It was like my body would feel this boom, 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 and it's just pulsing and I see the stars and the galaxies and they look more vivid and intense than you are shown on TV. And so I'm like, this, whoa, like I'm here. This whoa, like that's all I can say is this is amazing. I'm looking around and then I notice the earth beneath me, like to my right. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Then I look up and I'm escaping the outer space and I notice past the earth was, at first glance, it looked like the sun, but as I'm focusing in on it, It just literally looked like a suspended lake of fire. It's the best way I could describe it, like suspended lava, fire, just there. And I remember thinking, that's interesting. And so as I'm looking at that lake of fire, this being starts to come into focus from the space. And as he's coming into focus, he's huge, like huge. He's large, and I can't make out any features because the light from the stars and that lake of fire are illuminating his backside. So I can't make out any features. I just noticed he appeared to be bald, and he's coming closer, muscular arms. And I'm doing like a pan from up to down. And as I'm going down his arms, his hands look like claws, and his legs descend into the dark, like it descends into the black of space, just attached to it. And as I'm looking at him and he's approaching, coming into focus, like just appeared bigger than the earth, bigger than like just big. And I don't know what my size was compared to him, but he was much bigger than me. And I remember thinking, like, this is a supernatural being. As I said, Lord. And he said, no, you know who this is. The fear that followed those words. Oh, the utter fear. I thought, because I'm not walking with God, right? At this point, I've just shared that I was voluntarily ignoring his voice and doing my own thing and sleeping around and just ignoring God. I immediately knew it was Satan because I don't know any other demons. I don't read my Bible. I don't know anything. I just know there's a devil and there's God. And when he spoke the words, you know who this is, I thought, oh no, I just died and I'm being escorted to hell because I'm not living for God. Oh no, like the hopelessness. I just started saying no, 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 no. Like it's like the walls are caving in and I'm grasping for anything. I'm like, no, 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 no. Oh God, forgive me, Lord, forgive me, Lord, for lying, forgive me for this, forgive me. I start going ham on all the forgiveness. God, forgive me, save me, please. I'm sorry. And he said, shut up. If you worship me, I will give you all of these things. And when he's speaking, it's not like audible words like I'm talking now. It was in my body responded. It was like I would vibrate with every word he spoke. And like if you're standing next to a bass and the bass is going and you're just vibrating, that's what it felt like. And so when he said, if you worship me, I'll give you all these things, I had this immediate comfort, weird comfort. And I started to think like, oh, this is my time to choose. So as he's saying, if you worship me, I'll give you all these things, he's naming things now. He's naming fame and success, and he named a man because I remember, journaling that I want a husband one day and blah, blah, blah. So he's naming all the things that any right mind woman would want in this day and age. And so, and as he's naming these things, the earth starts to project the images of the things he's naming. It's like it became his own land, like his own thing. He just had full control over it. And I'm just looking like, no, I'm the daughter of Christ. Like after he said all the things he gave me, I said, no, I'm the daughter of Christ. This little puny boldness came out of nowhere. And he called me the B word. I was taken aback that he even used language like that, like called me the B word. And I immediately just got taken back. And I woke up like did that just happen? Because now I'm awake, I'm sitting up in bed, and that was more real than me waking up and sitting in the bed. It was so much more real. Like my senses were so much more heightened. Again, I was feeling like the vibration of the stars, and like it was really crazy. And again, I'm waking up. It's almost like this is the dream state. Like this is not real. Like that is more real. That experience was more real. So I'm like, oh no, I'm in trouble. And so I think I'm gonna call my mom. And my manager was in the bed at the time, so I don't want to wake her up because it's like 6 in the morning now, or yeah, about 5:50 in the morning ish. So I go and I get my phone, I go in the bathroom and I call my mom and I tell her what happened, and she immediately started crying and praying over me and like praying in tongues, and I'm on the floor in this bathroom crying out to God, like, oh no, like I didn't realize it was this bad. Like I didn't realize I was that far deep to where Satan is saying, I know you, you know who this is? Like I didn't, what do you mean I don't know you? I don't talk to you. But if I'm not walking with God, who am I walking with? There's only two kingdoms, and I didn't know that at the time. I just think, well, like if I play the fence or stay in this gray area, no, it's just two choices. That's it. So after I'm crying out and praying, this was a Thursday. Oh, I get off the phone with my mom, and I'm like, I gotta go home. So I remember I had a trip to Amsterdam that Saturday planned. And so I told my manager, I'm like, hey, I have to go back to Florida. And my parents were living in Florida. I went to high school in Florida. So, like, I got to go back home and I got to figure out what just happened to me. And she told me to share with her what happened. I shared with her. She didn't believe me. She thought it was a bad dream. I was like, no, 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 no. I know the difference between a horror, a terror, a nightmare. This was not that. I was there. This was something that actually happened to me. Like I could say physically, if I could believe that I was physically there, then shoot, maybe, I don't know, maybe, because it was so real. So I go home and I go to church that Sunday with my parents, and the pastor, he's talking about the three heavens. He's talking about the third heaven where Paul talked about being in the throne room of God, and how the first heaven is the sky and the clouds are. So I'm like, oh, I was in the second heaven. I was there. And so after the sermon, after he preached, I don't remember the full details of the sermon. I remember he was just talking about that. I was like, I was there. So I went and told the pastor about my experience, and he didn't believe me. He was like, oh, okay. He didn't believe me.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to tell you about our extra content on Locals. It's where you can hear the beginning of our conversations, learn the practical applications of the testimonies, and get out. I had just gotten that experience with Satan, and you obviously didn't want to follow through in the music industry. But how did it work with your managers and the people above you at the label? How did you kind of manage that?
Just as we have our own reasons for our beliefs, our families, our communities.
I remember calling my other manager. I had different managers for different things, but I remember calling my label manager, and he was like, okay, well, how long do you need to be gone? Like, or how long do you need a break? I was like, I don't know. I just know I have to follow God. I didn't tell him the dream. I just told him God is showing me something different, that God is speaking to me. And I was like, I just know I need to follow God. And he didn't push back, surprisingly. He was just like, okay, well, let me know if you need anything. You know, we're here. Just let me know. There was no real contention. So I go home and I just immediately fast. Like, I just know I have to fast. I heard about fasting. I just know I need to fast because the Spirit told me to fast and pray. So now I had a loft on Miami Beach, like literally across from the beach. So I got there every morning and just sit and pray and cry and like, God, have your way. And like, you know, I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so I'm familiar with worship songs and I've seen how people worship. So now I'm using my what I'm using for the world with singing and dancing. I'm doing that for God now. I'm like, God, take this, like, please help me. And it's like he was starting to slowly give me new eyes to see and ears to hear him. And I remember, like, what am I supposed to do? What do you want me to do, God? And I remember just having this idea one day during the fast to move to LA. And I don't share this, but at this point I hated LA because I had gone out there just for red carpet events and, you know, just to get my name out there, and I just did not like how fake it seemed and that the space where I was in. So that's why I was like, is this really from God? Because I'm like LA, and I have friends there that were always encouraging me, come to LA, but I'm like, I don't like LA. So I'm like, God, if this is you, this is an idea from you, you have to confirm it because I'm lost. I don't know up from down. I don't know anything. And my best friend, who was living in New York at the time, she called me, I want to say the next day, or maybe that same day. She called me and was like, hey, girl, you should move to LA. She's like, I have a brilliant idea. Let's move to LA. And I didn't tell her this experience before. She didn't know all the ins and outs of what was happening with me personally. She just knew I'm doing music and I'm about to blow up. She's like, you're in LA often or whatever, let's just move there. Because she was in modeling. So she's like, so I took that as confirmation from the Lord to move. And it was pretty simple. I think I moved about a month and a half later, and I stayed with a friend on her couch until I found an apartment.
Well, before we go too far, I want to stop and ask a few questions about your experience because you said that as a child you went to church, but you believed in God, but you didn't take it very seriously, and you didn't take the spiritual thing very seriously. But that experience that you had with Satan seemed like it opened up your whole world, and then a lot of things started happening after. So I want to focus a little bit on that. I have a few questions. Actually, I have one main question because you said that as soon as you fell asleep, you were taken out of your body, and you said you woke up at 6 a.m. Do you have any idea of how long that lasted? At least when you went to bed, or because I know you said it's weird with time, but can you try to explain that to us?
Yeah, because I was partying, so probably got to bed at 4 in the morning. So I was probably sleeping for 2 hours roughly.
Okay, so that would make sense. That and you said in the beginning you didn't know how long it was that you were floating in
Right.
space, so
Yeah.
that okay that explains a lot for me, and I think it's just fascinating how your life shifted so suddenly after that, and we didn't touch a whole lot about your music career because you said that you took a break and then you moved to LA, but what happened with your label, your managers, and all of that? What happened there?
Yes, thanks for asking those questions. So again, I called my label manager and I was like, I need to step back. I don't know for how long. And so now I'm in LA and I'm like, I just know I can't. I just know there's no more. So what's crazy is Universal dropped me. The indie label was running out of funds. So doors were closing. Just doors were closing. Now I'm on my own. So if I want to do music, it's like it's got to be through favor. And so now in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I'm doing music, it's strictly gospel now. It's Christian music. So I'm calling some producer friends that I made in LA who have careers. Like, hey, let's collab on these projects. I want to do more like Christian music, whatever. But no one's interested. Or they're interested, but we can't get a session scheduled, or we get a session scheduled and record a song, and the song does nothing. It's just sitting there. So just doors close, close, close. Now I'm in LA, and I have a commercial agent, so I'm booking commercials. Like I'm working. I'm even waitressing on the side. So I'm just music seems to be like this is not happening. So, but God showed me during my time of prayer and fasting that was going to be a door that He's going to open. Because during my prayer and fasting, He revealed to me that what He wants to do through me and my voice is to set people free, to teach people about Jesus, about the love of God. That's it. I mean, not that's it, but no. There's no compromise. It's like if I want to do it my way, it's gonna go downhill. It's not gonna go anywhere. It's gonna be a lot of heartbreak and exhaustion. But with the Lord, all things are possible, and that it was gonna be Him who opens the door for that. So I let it go. I was like, all right, I don't even want to do music anymore. I kind of got upset, and I'm like, I'll just forget it. If I sing, I'll sing at church. And I sang at church, Sundays and whatever. But it was like I'm just gonna focus on acting. I'll just do that. And if music comes up, I'll be here. But all the doors closed for music. I just got so I it was like a love-hate relationship because when I would try to do it the right way for God, like okay, well, He said He's gonna open the door, so it'll be about Christian music, and I'm trying to create these relationships, and even people are coming to me who've had some success in some areas with music, but nothing's happening, and I'm like, I'm getting so frustrated. I'm like, but God, you said, and I would get so upset.